House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. It's a big day for us here at House of Cards because we are celebrating our 700th show. And there's no better way to celebrate this anniversary than with a guest who is central to the gambling industry in this country. Everyone knows that this past year and a half has been extremely challenging for the gambling industry, but we're finally coming to an end of this dismal time. To talk about what the gambling industry has gone through and where it's headed, we have the president and CEO of the American Gaming Association, Bill Miller. The AGA just released their State of the States report, and it shows some fascinating things about the gambling industry, and we're going to talk all about it with Bill Miller when we come back. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use the offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. In my opinion, one of the most important organizations for the gambling industry in this country is the American Gaming Association. The information, programs, and resources they provide for this industry are vital. And recently, they just released their annual State of the States report on the casino industry in this country, and it is fascinating reading. And to tell us all about it, we have the CEO and president of the American Gaming Association, Bill Miller, on the line. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Oh, Dave, it's a great pleasure to be with you today, and
I think before we start, it's, congratulations that this is the 700 episodes, and I feel honored to be part of that.
We're honored to have you. I mean, what better way to celebrate than have the CEO and president of the American Gaming Association on? But thank you for that, and thank you for joining us again. And like I said, for someone like myself who works in the gambling industry, the information and resources that the American Gaming Association provides allows me to do my job effectively. But for our listeners out there who are not familiar with the AGA, can you tell us a little something about it?
I'm sure. The AGA represents the interests of the gaming industry. We have a wide array of members. Again, we're a membership association, and so we have operators, commercial operators as well as tribal operators. We have manufacturers and suppliers that are also members of the organization. And we are both domestic as well as, in a limited fashion, international, in that three of the operators that we have, MGM, Sands, and Wynn, have rather extensive operations in Macau. And so the organization was founded 25 years ago as an effort to try and stop some federal tax levies that were going to be put against the industry, and we have flourished ever since.
Now, as I said, the AGA recently came out with their latest State of the States report, which has some fascinating information on it. Certainly, we know that the gambling industry has just gone through one of the most challenging times in history, but it was really eye-opening reading this report and seeing those figures. I mean, walk us through some of those figures with us. Give us a sense of what the gambling industry in this country endured as we moved through the pandemic.
Well, I think the COVID impacted every business in America, and we were not spared. In fact, I'd make the argument that, with the possible exception of the cruise line industry, our industry was probably as devastated as any industry in the country. In fact, we have 989 commercial and tribal properties in America, all of which closed in the span of just a few weeks in that period between March and April. I think the casinos lost more than 45,000 business days over that period of time due to pandemic closures. And in some states, Illinois, Michigan, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania, they didn't just close down once, but they closed down a second time. And so the damage to the industry, the difficulties that the industry went through, and I don't want to minimize the damage or hurt that other industries had, but our industry was battered. But on the other hand, what we saw was incredible resilience, and I think that's as you referenced the AGA's State of the States report, what you see in there is incredible resilience in terms of, despite being open for, or being closed for such a significant amount of time, that we already have seen in the report, and then really after the report, some extraordinary numbers as it relates to the rebound of the industry.
Yeah, I think the numbers were just incredible during the pandemic as well as the start of this recovery. Do you think how the gambling industry maneuvered through this pandemic is a subject we're going to hear more and more about in the future? I mean, was this such a traumatic event that studies will continue for years to come?
I hope so. I think that, it's important to also remember that, as every industry looked to Washington, D.C., and Capitol Hill and the White House for support, we were no different in terms of relief and stimulus. And as someone who's been in the industry for a long time, you know that the gambling industry, the gaming industry, has not been treated the same as every other business in America. Mm-hmm. If you go back to post 9/11, through Hurricane Katrina, the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009, and Superstorm Sandy. In each one of those cases, the gaming industry, the casino industry, was carved out of and discriminated against as it relates to stimulus and relief. And for the first time ever last year in the CARES Act, we were included and treated the same as every other business. And my view is that because we're in 45 states around the country, and that legislators, politicians, community leaders recognize the important role we play in the communities, that they saw what we did during COVID and what we had been doing prior to COVID, that we're good community partners and that we deserve to be treated the same as all of these other suffering businesses.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with the president and CEO of the American Gaming Association, Bill Miller. You raised a very interesting point. I mean, certainly during the pandemic, the gambling industry had to adapt and change to get by. I mean, I can tell you, I was a gaming lawyer for 25 years, and I never thought I would have to draft a service agreement for the cleaning and sanitizing of casino chips. Yeah. But as I think more about it, I mean, I think that's a good thing, and maybe casinos should keep cleaning and sanitizing their chips. It's a great idea. But has this pandemic changed the gambling industry from here on in? I mean, do you think that some of the things that were put in place during the pandemic will continue as the gaming industry goes through this reopening?
Well, I think that what we've seen during the pandemic, certainly strong growth in sports betting and iGaming. In some cases, when these casino properties were closed, iGaming was a bridge that allowed them to many of these guys to stay afloat. And sports betting has continued to grow as it has become legalized after the PASPA decision of the Supreme Court of May of 2018. We now have sports betting in 19 states, plus the District of Columbia in 2020. And a number of those markets launched in 2020. And so obviously we needed to get sports back on before really sports betting could come back. But we saw strong growth in sports betting, in legal sports betting, from 13 billion in 2019 to 21.5 billion in 2020. So that was a huge increase. In terms of iGaming, also, even though it was only in 4 states, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, it accounted for $1.5 billion in iGaming revenue. And so I see those as growth opportunities. And I also see the change in attitudes around some of the operators that held the view that any of these non-brick and mortar activities are at the expense of my brick and mortar property. I believe there's been a adoption of and support for among some of those who really didn't think sports betting was a worthwhile or a important financial endeavor, and that iGaming was something that has now looked at quite differently because of the pandemic. And I don't believe that will change.
I'm glad you brought up iGaming. I live in New Jersey, and I can tell you I can't turn on a television without seeing an online casino commercial. I mean, iGaming has really exploded during the pandemic. Where does it go from here? I mean, has it found a sustainable audience from here on out, or do you think it will fall back to pre-pandemic levels with regard to iGaming?
Well, I think that one thing that's important to remember is we really have to continue, and we do this at the AGA all the time, is press the federal government to recognize the difference between legal iGaming and illegal offshore gaming, and that the success of legal iGaming, the success of mobile sports betting needs to take place in a legal, safe, and regulated markets. But we need help. We need help at the federal level from a law enforcement perspective to ensure that these expansion of opportunities continue in a way that is safe and legal, and that we continue to do everything that we can to destroy the illegal market. And I think we're doing a good job of it so far.
Well, let me talk to you about the iGaming. I mean, I get to talk to a lot of officials around the country and other states, and they were telling me how lucky New Jersey was to have a safety net of iGaming. Is that the correct way to describe iGaming, as a safety net? Is that the wrong frame of mind? Should they be thinking that iGaming is now a viable part of their gambling market?
I think that the way I have characterized it is it was a bridge that helped us sustain the industry in a number of states, both iGaming and sports betting, during a time when we were shut down. And so, but that experimentation also created opportunities for people to look at iGaming differently than they had in the past. And I believe that it will continue to be a component of operators, whether they be sports betting operators or larger or brick and mortar operators that offer this as a component of their myriad of offerings.
You mentioned it, and one thing that has changed the face of gambling in this country is sports betting. And I know sports betting was popular, but after seeing the AGA's report, I'm blown away by the numbers. What has sports betting meant for the gambling industry in this country?
I think importantly, and I say this all the time, Americans have been betting on sports as long as there have been sports to bet on. The question has been, previous to the Supreme Court decision of May of 2018, where do they bet? And in the past, prior to the Supreme Court's decision that opened up sports betting legally in America, what we saw was states recognized that this was an important market, and it was an important market opportunity for their citizens to bet legally. And instead of going to corner bookies or for the illegal offshore online marketplace. And so, honestly, I've spent most of my life either in government or advising government, and I've quite frankly never seen anything move as quickly in state capitals as the sports betting efforts have been in terms of going from Supreme Court decision to creating legislation and authorities and writing up regs and opening up the doors of legal sports betting. Quite frankly, I've never seen anything move as quickly. And I think that for us, what we have stressed is, number one, this is a way for us to help destroy the illegal market. And that's good for everybody. It's good for consumers. It's good for governments. And obviously it's good for the industry. And importantly, it's good for the leagues and the integrity of the leagues. And one of the other things that we have done a lot of is a lot of outreach to what I call our new business partners, whether it's leagues, teams, arenas, stadiums, broadcasters, all of which now see monetization in sports betting. But unlike our industry, which responsibility and responsible gambling are core to who we are, they're not necessarily conversant in or have an understanding of the responsibility that comes with the financial opportunities of sports betting. And so we have spent a lot of time trying to make sure our new business partners in this regard recognize the responsibility that they share with us.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of June 14th, 2021. The New Jersey State Legislature approved a bill providing Atlantic City casinos some much-needed tax relief by a nearly unanimous vote. If signed into law, the bill grants the brick-and-mortar casinos a 2-year tax exemption on promotional credits issued to casino patrons. The legislation also expands promotional credits to include table games and match play coupons. The Nevada Gaming Control Commission announced the launch of a self-exclusion list just for online gaming. Once registered, a player will be prevented from accessing online casino sites in the state. The list marks the first time that Nevada gaming regulators have attempted to monitor self-exclusion lists for online gambling sites. And finally, a gambler at the Wecopa Casino in Scottsdale, Arizona was headed for the door to go home after a full day of gambling, but decided to put his last $100 into the Wheel of Fortune slot machine on his way out of the casino. He was glad he did because that $100 turned into a jackpot of over $1.3 million. Now that's a great way to end your day. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with the president and CEO of the American Gaming Association, Bill Miller. You know, I've spoken to a lot of executives in the sports betting business, and they have echoed your statements about how quickly this business has grown since 2018. But they're also very surprised of how the deals were made during the pandemic and how sports betting continued to grow at a rapid pace during the lockdown. I'm wondering what your opinion was. I mean, how has sports betting grown even with the pandemic throwing a roadblock in front of it?
Well, I think legislatures figured out ways to convene. Most of them convened virtually, but they convened nonetheless. And so even though you had legislatures that weren't physically together, you have to remember that it was May of 2018 that this decision was made. You know, Delaware and New Jersey were up within weeks after the decision. Other states recognized that when the Supreme Court when this decision came down, this was an important opportunity for those legislators who have experience in expansion of casino gaming or other types of gaming in their states, and that it was reasonably easy to get them to understand the benefit that could come from them putting forth legislation. And look, we got a lot of these things done in 2019, in the year before the pandemic. But then we still, and for a number of states that weren't able to get it across the finish line, in a number of states, the legislative outlines may have been crafted in 2019 and didn't really require a huge lift to get them across the finish line in 2020.
As we emerge from this pandemic, what do you think we can expect from the sports betting industry? Will more and more states allow sports betting and iGaming, and how does mobile sports betting fit into the gambling landscape as we come out of this pandemic?
I think that sports betting is going to continue to grow. I think that we are kind of out of the legislative sessions across the country, with a couple of exceptions. And so we may be kind of at a pause moment for sports betting between now and the end of the year. But I think that we had a number of states that looked at it this year. They didn't quite get there. But some, and every state's a little bit different, as you well know. Some states, as it relates to additional offerings, may require a ballot referendum. Mm-hmm. Some require only legislation. Some require regulatory change. And so all of those things are all a little bit different. But what I can say is there has been strong momentum. Sports betting has been incredibly well received by the public. I think consumers wanted to be able to bet on sports and know that it was legal, and know that if they won a bet, they'd get paid, and that the proceeds from sports betting can pay for important public services as well. And so I think that it's been shown to be a win-win across the board, and clearly the part that we need to continue to focus on is in the areas of responsibility, and particularly as it relates to, as I said, our new business partners. But we've been doing a lot of work on that front, and I think you're aware of our responsible gambling platform called Have a Game Plan.
Yep.
And that's a public service campaign that we launched in 2019 to educate fans and consumers about responsible sports betting practices.
Tell me a little more about the Have a Game Plan, Bet Responsibly program. What is your goal for this program?
Well, I think, as I've said, we have this shared imperative really for everyone in the sports betting ecosystem, and whether it's leagues, teams, operators, media companies, to educate fans on responsible sports betting. That sports betting should be fun, not a way to pay your mortgage. It's a way for the consumers to, in essence, have a game plan when they wager. That we are making good on that commitment to continue to instill responsibility as a principle in every new legal market. And the key principles, there's 4 of them. It's set a budget and stick to it. It's keep it social. Sports betting is a form of entertainment. It's not a way to earn an income. Be informed and learning the details about the games in your playing, and play with trusted, licensed, regulated operators. And one of the things that's been so exciting is the uptake. And it didn't come quickly. If you well know, many of the leagues were litigants or or partners in opposing our efforts to legalize sports betting across the country. And without exception, they've all recognized the change, and they've all recognized that it's been positive. And so from a business perspective, they get it. And now what we're seeing is we now have these sports leagues partners on how to game plan. We've signed deals with NASCAR, with the NHL, with the PGA Tour, and UFC. And we've got team partners like Monumental Sports that owns the Capitals and the Wizards and the Las Vegas Knights. And we now have operators like FanDuel and payment companies that are all signing up for and want to be part of Have a Game Plan, because once we've educated them to the importance of this, they have recognized it and adopted it.
It's such a great program. I mean, I've talked to the PGA Tour a couple weeks ago. I'm interviewing NASCAR next week, and they're part of Have a Game Plan. And I'm wondering, how is everyone working together to effectively promote betting responsibly?
Well, I think it is. It's a number of different features that different participants in the ecosystem have. And so, if you're a stadium or you're an arena, it might be unused advertising inventory to make sure that responsible gambling messaging comes up on the video boards, or it's on signage in and around the arena. For media companies, it's utilizing advertising, television advertising space for those same purposes. And I think for leagues and teams, it is they all have different opportunities to highlight and promote Have a Game Plan, and we're seeing it implemented in different ways. But the most important thing, and the thing that we've said is, look, the AGA has no interest in making any money on this public service campaign. Mm-hmm. What we just want is people to understand the importance of it and to adopt it and to utilize it. We built out multiple different creative concepts for how they could best use it, but then we let them go with it and have them make it their own.
Where can people go to find out more about Have a Game Plan program?
Well, I think that the American Gaming Association.org is probably the best place to learn anything that you'd want to know about the state of the industry, the state of the state reports that we talked about previously. We have a lot of good information about that, and we certainly have a strong section on Have a Game Plan on our website.
Well, Bill, right now the gambling industry is reopening and hopefully to almost pre-pandemic levels everywhere. I mean, they've had a fantastic first quarter of 2021. What do those numbers look like for the gambling industry in the new year?
I think that 2021 may well be the best year that the industry's ever seen. And I say that because what we're seeing as we're looking at the first quarter, really the first 2 quarters beginning to report, is that we're seeing 2019 numbers, and we're not looking at just increases on 2020, but we're seeing, even with reduced capacity, 2019 number. We're seeing 2019 numbers and stronger than 2019 numbers, and I know that we in our State of the State report only covers commercial operators. But I will say that I talk to the tribal guys all the time, and they're seeing the same dynamic that we report on in the State of the State report. And the other really important thing is, if you think about the overall visitor demographics that have been, core to our industry, they have skewed significantly younger during the pandemic. Not surprisingly, it was pretty clear early on in the pandemic that that COVID was particularly dangerous to elderly people, and our industry has long been successful with people that are retired or people that have a little bit more time on their hands to go and enjoy the local casino. And those people, even when things reopened, they have been the group that has been more reluctant to come back. And so our view is, if we're doing numbers with a much younger demographic than previously, and we know that as increased vaccinations happen and people get more and more comfortable, we think that that some of the older customers that have been staples, core to our industry, are going to come back, and capacity is going to increase as it is, month by month, week by week, and that we're just going to see rather exciting and incredible growth for the back end of 2021.
Is that the challenge for casinos going forward? I remember pre-pandemic, I've talked to casinos and marketers, and they were trying to get the millennials in. Now, are they trying to get their core customers, the older customer, back in? Is that the challenge now for casinos going forward?
I think that it's a challenge for all businesses. We all went through a year in which was pretty scarring. And if you were an elderly person and you learned more about COVID, you became more and more scared about going out. And so changing the mentality, ensuring that customers feel safe in casinos, and we do a lot of public opinion work, and I think that some of the things that we've been able to see is that Americans believe that we act in a responsible manner as it relates to responsible gambling, but also importantly to mitigate the risk of COVID and implementing enhanced hygiene procedures and employee testing and screening. And so as we continue to communicate that with those core audiences, my belief is that those core audiences will return.
Bill, we're running out of time, but can you give out your website again so people can keep up to date with the AGA and all the information it provides on the gaming industry?
Absolutely, Dave. I'd be happy to do it, and it's AmericanGamingAssociation.org.
Bill Miller, President and CEO of the American Gaming Association, thank you so much for coming on and giving us an amazing update of the gambling landscape of this country. The report is called State of the States 2021, the AGA survey of the commercial casino industry, and it's a must-read for whoever's interested in the gambling business. Bill, please come back on and keep us updated about what's going on in the gambling industry.
I would be my honor to do it, and I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
You are more in need of a night in Atlantic City than any man I've ever met. I'd say sit down at a table, go for dinner, see a show, take a walk on the boardwalk and smell the salt air. But if you're anything like me, nothing after sit down at a table is going to happen.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you here. We are back with executive producer Doug Weishottle with the book report to tell us what's going on in the sports books across the country. Doug, what do you got?
Welcome to this week's edition of the book report, where we talk about what's going on in the news and notes and all the different states and sports betting reports around the country. We've got our usual suspects of state and national reports. We've got legislation. We've got deals. We've got launches, and speaking of launches, we're going to start off right away with Nebraska.
Yeah, that's right. They joined the ranks of the sports betting community.
Yep, Governor, I want to get his name right, Governor Pete Ricketts signed Gaming Expansion Bill LB 561 into law last week.
And it's not only sports betting, right?
It's gaming expansion.
It's gaming expansion. You got it's sports betting's part of it, but no mobile. Is that correct?
No mobile. It's retail only.
All right.
It's going to be retail betting at states' horse racing tracks. That's it.
Okay, well.
So, very, very simple.
Hey, it's a step in the right direction.
And, it's kind of interesting. Residents will not be able to place bets on in-state collegiate sports, especially the home games of the two college teams that are big there, the Cornhuskers, the Huskers?
Nebraska Cornhuskers.
And congratulations to Nebraska for joining the ranks of the sports betting states. And speaking of launching sports betting, we have a bunch of launch dates for upcoming state launches.
All right.
We have Arizona. They announced that they are still on track for the start of the NFL season.
That's always one of those benchmark dates, start of the NFL season was when they want to start sports betting, or usually it's the playoffs or the Super Bowl, or March Madness is another benchmark that everyone uses. We're into the realm of now when we hear of launches, their goal date is start by the launch of the NFL season, right?
Well, the official date that they have set as a target is September 9th.
Okay.
So, and speaking of other launch dates, we have, and I'll go through the list of what's coming up here, Wyoming plans to launch online sports betting September 1st.
Wow, okay.
South Dakota, Deadwood, retail sports betting September 1st. Connecticut is planning to launch online sports betting by September 6th.
Great, good.
And in fall of 2021 of this year, Maryland is going to launch retail sports betting as well as online offerings to follow after retail launches. Nebraska is going to be launching like we just talked about. And then we have the first quarter of 2022 is the planned launch of online sports betting in New York. Now, that could be pushed back, but tentatively, that's when they're actually planning on launching online sports betting in the Empire State.
I guess their goal date is the Super Bowl, I would guess.
I
bet you they're, if they're not going to do the start of the NFL season, the next big date is the Super Bowl. So I guess that's their target date.
And after that is March Madness.
Yeah.
So, right in a row, you got two big events. It makes sense.
Sure.
They're not going to have anything in place by the fall here. So, but again, that could all go by the wayside. I'm still dying to see if they get the casino in Manhattan.
There was a lot of talk about that. Someone even said, could there be a casino in Times Square, which, the traffic is terrible in New York already. Can you imagine a casino in New York City? But no, the people have been talking about it. Developers have been talking about it. I don't see any concrete plans for it, but, hey, I guess it's fun to talk about.
There's always a way to introduce it. And
Sure.
if it gets rejected, it gets rejected, but you keep introducing it, keep your constituency happy, that sort of thing. So,
that'd be amazing, though. A casino in the heart of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, just so we have a overall picture here, about 40% of the country has access to some form of legal sports betting now.
Great.
When these other states launch, you're looking at probably another bump up, another 5%, 45, 46% of the country will have access to legal sports betting in some way, shape, or form, whether it's retail or online, or even parlay stuff.
You know, I have to check, and I want to see how these things develop. But, you know, I'm a resident of New Jersey, and I have the sportsbooks, mobile sportsbooks for New Jersey. I mean, I'm very close to Pennsylvania. I'm in New York City all the time. I'm wondering if, you know, if there's going to be a shared wallet between these, you know, these jurisdictions, because I don't want to, you know, when I'm in Pennsylvania, I don't want to have a whole section of sports books on my phone, or when I'm in Manhattan, I don't want to have a whole different other apps for sports books. I'm hoping that these things, I mean, if I have FanDuel in New Jersey, hopefully I'll be able to play it in Pennsylvania and New York.
Well, again, depends on the operator. Also, depends on the platform, too, because a lot of them are using different platforms in different states, too.
Well, the one thing I screwed up, I found out on my phone, you know, I got a new phone, and I downloaded some of the sports books that I use, and one of them was Sugar House. And I accidentally downloaded the wrong sportsbook app. I did Sugar House Pennsylvania when I should have done Sugar House New Jersey, and it wasn't working. So I finally realized what it was. I didn't see the top. It said Sugar House Pennsylvania. I was like, why isn't this working?
Well, see, that's an indication of different platforms.
Well, that's why when I hope that would started this question. I mean, I hopefully, you know, if I have a sports book app in New Jersey, if I cross state lines, hopefully I can just change to Pennsylvania and it's a shared wallet. So hopefully that'll...
I'll give you an indication of how different the platforms are. IGT just announced they did a deal in North Dakota with just the Dakota Magic Casino and Hotel. They're going to be using the Play Sports platform. Now, other casinos have different platforms.
Yeah.
Regardless of the owner of the casinos, the different casinos make different deals. As you know, Scientific Games. They just launched in Indiana, Virginia, and Tennessee with WinBet. WinBet uses the Scientific Games platform. Mm-hmm. So, and you know, that uses non-best sports stats.
Yeah.
And every platform is going to be different.
Yeah, but I hope as more and more states get sports betting, and, you know, like I said, I'm in New Jersey, and, you know, New York is getting mobile sports betting. Pennsylvania already has it. If I have FanDuel, hopefully I can use that same app and just change the location where I'm at, or wherever, how that works. But hopefully it's a shared wallet. But it's you know, just to make things easier for me.
Well, you know what's going to be really nice at some point in New Jersey? What? You don't have to go to another state to bet on New Jersey college teams.
Yes, I hear that's, hopefully the voters will agree that that's kind of a stupid rule, and it does nothing for integrity. And, hopefully...
the state Senate just approved 36-1 the resolution to amend the sports betting law to permit legal wagers on in-state college teams and collegiate events.
Yeah, because right now New Jersey has the rule that if a college and university is located in New Jersey, or if there's a sporting event of a collegiate nature in the state, you can't bet on it. So,
no, it's always been. I know.
I guess it was an integrity kind of thing
to protect the student athlete.
Sure,
that sort
I
of
understand,
thing.
But you know, it really, in practicality, it did nothing.
Well, in practicality, it just denied the state a certain amount of revenue. Yeah, and
I like the way one state did it. I mean, they said you can bet on the college teams, you just can't bet on the individual players.
Right. I think that's a good compromise.
I think that's a good compromise.
A great compromise.
I can work with that.
Bet on college, but not the players.
Yeah.
And I know Florida threw that into their bill. We'll see what happens down there. That's going to have a whole bunch of messy legal challenges, and it's still got to have even federal approval. So, but again, I think, you know, with everything that happened also with the pandemic and this past March Madness, they had an event there was also not March, I misspoke there. There was a collegiate event in New Jersey where we couldn't bet on any of the games.
Oh, yeah, no, there was a collegiate basketball tournament. I forgot which one. I think it was the MAC or something like that, the Mid-Atlantic thing. But no, it happened in Convention Hall, in Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, with about 9 sports books around it, and no one could bet on it.
No, that probably was the last straw for a lot of this stuff.
It was just weird. Great basketball tournament. You know, you couldn't bet on it mobily. You had 9 sports books in walking distance. I mean, next door you had a sports book where you couldn't even bet on this thing.
You actually had to leave New Jersey to bet on a New Jersey sporting event.
Yeah.
Which, that makes absolutely no sense, and I think this is where they're trying to alleviate a little bit of frustration on the better side. Bettor side, I should say, not better side. But, we'll see exactly what happens. That's going to go on the ballot in November, and, I'm hoping people vote for this, because that just creates an expansion of not only the revenue, but the taxes.
More revenue for the state.
More revenue for the state, more revenue for the casinos, especially now after COVID, where they need some help, getting back to where they used to be for their revenues and everything. So, this is a right move. Going over to some numbers. We have April and May numbers to talk about here. We didn't have time last week to talk about
June. We're still talking April numbers?
We didn't have time to talk Virginia, because Virginia released their April sports betting numbers at the end of press time for us before we started taping.
Okay.
They reported a sports betting handle of $236 million, 22% lower than March. They're experiencing the same March Madness hangover pretty much the entire nation is, sports betting-wise. They had adjusted gross revenue of $11.38 million. That's after all promos were taken out and deductions, and it ended up being an 8.22% hold for operators in the state. Interesting thing about Virginia, the growth of that industry, they're expecting it to be the fastest to $1 billion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, didn't we have a story? What was the fastest to $1 billion? Was it Colorado?
Right now, the fastest is Tennessee still.
Tennessee still?
6
really?
months.
Okay,
It took them
Tennessee.
6 months of operation.
I knew it was Tennessee or Colorado, but no, Tennessee did amazing. And Tennessee doesn't even have retail sports books. Tennessee is all online.
According to all the stats we're seeing, Virginia is expected to cross the $1 billion mark in handle in 5 months of operation.
Wow.
So they are doing some really good. All they need is about $150 million in May in terms of handle to actually get to the $1 billion mark.
So they'll probably get that.
They'll probably get that, yes. Because especially they just had 236 in April. I'm wondering, what's in May? I mean, horse racing is still not part of the sports betting scheme of everybody. So May probably...
Well, you had the
baseball, basketball,
the
pro
start of the
basketball.
playoffs and things like that.
Yeah,
so
NHL
hockey,
and NBA, all that stuff. You got a lot of auto racing.
Washington
Indy 500.
Washington Wizards were playing before the Sixers knocked them out in May.
Yes.
So you'll get some like Virginia people betting on Washington Wizards.
Oh yeah.
So,
it
should be
interesting numbers. I mean, I know playoff betting is a lot more. There's a lot more of it than there is regular season, especially NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see exactly where it goes with that. But Virginia may be setting some records pretty soon. We'll see. Rhode Island also released their April numbers. We didn't get a chance to talk about them as well. Sports betting handle in April of $29 million. 16 of it was mobile.
Okay.
And now that's kind of interesting. I thought it'd be a little higher in terms of how much of a percentage of the total handle would be, especially when they got rid of the in-person registration requirement a couple months ago.
Well, more people are out. More people are going to these places. So,
there's no Patriots to bet on either.
Yeah.
So, but it's
Red Sox are doing well, so maybe that helps.
Red Sox just have been doing incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's surprising, that team. But a couple interesting numbers here. Since November of 2018, that's its launch, Rhode Island's books have taken in over $623 million in handle. That adds up to averages out to $728 for every resident 18 years or older in the state.
Okay.
But the problem with that number, you got to realize a lot of their betting public comes from Massachusetts and Connecticut.
Yeah.
So once Connecticut launches...
Yeah, I wonder how much of an effect Connecticut starting sports betting will affect Rhode Island. So that should be interesting.
Well,
I didn't even think of that.
All depends
I
on...
rarely think of Rhode Island. I'm sorry, people from Rhode Island, but I rarely think of Rhode Island sports betting.
Well, we rarely think of New Hampshire.
No.
But that's all DraftKings. That's
a
big time operation up there in New Hampshire. We don't think about too much. But Rhode Island's always been interesting to me because they have two casinos and online sports betting, and they're actually doing pretty well. The other numbers for Rhode Island. Rhode Island is winning more than residents in Washington, D.C., Delaware, Arkansas, and Mississippi. They have tied with Oregon for the most winning. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see exactly where Rhode Island goes. You're right with Connecticut launching. Now we have our first May numbers. Oregon. Oregon's May handle came in at $27.8 million. That's up 10% from April. They're having a slight rebound with the sports betting numbers. Revenue did decrease from April. Most wagered on sports in the state is still basketball, taking in $16 million in handle. Rest of the top 5: baseball, soccer, hockey, and MMA. Your favorite sport, table tennis, came in. It was the 7th most bet on sport, but it was the 6th in handle. The handle was about $775,000. 14,585 bets were placed on table tennis, and an average bet of $51.
Well, hey, it's a popular sport, I guess, in certainly Colorado. I know that's a big one. What's the other state?
Colorado and Oregon. We just
Colorado and Oregon, yeah. But there's no other state that I haven't seen table tennis anywhere else discussed except for Oregon and Colorado.
Well, those 2 states are the only 2 that I know of that separate out table tennis. Everybody else puts it in the other category. So you have to actually dig around for that, but it's not separated out like it is in those 2 states.
And that's all the time we have this week for House of Cards. See you next week.
Wild country in your